It was the kind of wound that doesn't just mark a family, it seeps into the air of an entire community, a rift that doesn't heal quickly because it isn't about one simple incident but about what that moment represented, what it said without words. And for Patrick Kielty's family in the close-knit, quietly proud village of Dundrum in County Down, that moment was carved in painful permanence the day his beloved mother Mary was laid to rest and Cat Deeley, the woman who had shared his life for 12 years of marriage, the mother of his two young boys, the face that for over a decade had stood beside him on life's stage, did not appear, did not stand at his side, did not offer the hand on his shoulder that in such moments transcends whatever difficulties exist in a marriage, because in Northern Ireland, especially in communities like Dundrum, there are unspoken rules, traditions forged in grief and solidarity, and funerals, particularly of someone as loved and respected as Mary, are not just private affairs but communal acts of remembrance, unity, and respect, and when one of those moments is broken, when a chair is left empty, when an absence is noticed not just by a few but by every pair of eyes gathered under the gray sky, it becomes a story, a scar, a symbol of something greater, and as Patrick, aged 54, walked through his home village carrying the weight of his mother's coffin, bereft and heavy in the way only a son saying his final goodbye can be, the weight was not just the wooden casket but the silence of the space beside him where his wife should have been, a silence his family, still seething months later, have not forgotten, cannot forget, and perhaps will not forgive, because Mary was not just Patrick's mother, she was the center of their world, a woman who had survived the murder of her husband Jack, shot dead by Protestant paramilitaries in 1988 in a case of mistaken identity that left her widowed at 46, raising Patrick and his two brothers single-handedly while working in a local school, and for someone who knew that story, who knew the depth of bond between mother and son, to choose instead to remain in London, to present ITV's This Morning on the very day her husband buried his mother, was, for them, beyond comprehension, beyond acceptable reasoning, no matter the explanation later offered that she stayed to be there for their two boys before and after school. Because in their eyes, in the eyes of Dundrum, there was family in abundance in the village to care for the children if needed, there was the unshakable expectation that for something as final and momentous as this, you put on your best face, you show unity, even if only for a few hours, even if only for the cameras and the whispers, because that is the way of things here, the done thing, the unspoken code, and when that code is broken, it is not only noticed but remembered, discussed, woven into the fabric of local memory, so much so that even now, months later, friends, neighbors, even those who only knew the Kielty family in passing, will lower their voice and say they knew in that moment the marriage was over, not in some vague, slow drift way but with the clarity of a lightning strike, and they say it with the kind of certainty that comes from shared cultural understanding. The wake, the funeral, the graveside are not moments one can redo, they are anchors of tradition, and to miss them, especially in a family so respected that the local Gaelic football club named its pitch after Patrick's father Jack, is to make a statement without speaking, and the whispers grew into quiet certainties among those who filled the Church of the Sacred Heart that day, because they had all turned out, as is the way in Dundrum, the whole village of 1,500 people paying their respects, lining the path, filling the pews, embracing the rituals that bind them, from the solemn procession to the wake afterwards where stories were told and tears were shed. And yet through it all there was the lingering, unspoken question, where was she? A question asked in glances, in hushed tones over cups of tea, in the pauses between condolences, and though Patrick himself, dignified and grief-stricken, carried himself through the day, the absence was like a missing note in a song everyone knew by heart, and for his family it was more than just a social slight, it was a deep emotional bruise, because they felt that even in the rockiest moments of a marriage, something like this should override everything, that even if only for appearances, for the sake of decency, for the sake of the man burying his mother, she should have been there, that in this corner of Northern Ireland, the measure of love, of commitment, of respect is in whether you stand beside someone in their hour of need, not just in the easy days but in the hardest, and when she stayed away, when she chose work and distance over presence, it left them hurt, embarrassed, and convinced that whatever chance there might have been of mending things between Patrick and Cat had evaporated like breath on a cold morning, and this feeling was not just confined to the family but spread through the community, because in Dundrum they do not forget such things, they do not brush them aside, and so even as life goes on, Patrick lying low in his stylish country home along the winding lanes overlooking Dundrum Bay and the Mourne Mountains, the waves rolling in quietly against the shore. Friends and family visiting to rally around him, to give him space and peace. The memory of that day, of that absence, hangs in the air like a stubborn mist, a reminder of the fragility of bonds, the weight of tradition, and the way one decision can echo far beyond the moment itself.